in the heart of England, where the ancient oaks of Whittlewood Forest stretch their gnarled branches toward the sky, a darkness lingers. Long before the roar of Silverstone's racing cars or the drone of wartime planes, before even the chants of monks echoed through a forgotten priory, this land belonged to the kings of England, declared a royal forest by William the Conqueror in the 11th century. Whittlewood was a realm of towering trees, secretive glades, and the king's sacred game, deer, boar, and pheasant, protected by laws as unyielding as iron. The venison and the vert, the beasts and their wooded havens, were the crown's treasure, guarded with a ferocity that left no mercy for the common folk. To poach a rabbit or fell a tree was to court death or mutilation. Gamekeepers, the king's enforcers, prowled the forest with keen eyes and cruel traps, while desperate villagers played a deadly game of stealth, slipping through the shadows to feed their families. Whittlewood became a place of whispers, where fear took root as deeply as the oaks. And with fear came stories, tales of phantoms and curses, of hoofbeats in the night and eyes that gleamed in the dark. No parchment records their origins, but the folk of Whittlewood knew better than to dismiss them. For on the blackest nights, when the wind fell silent and the moon hid its face, the forest stirred with something older than the trees. It was one such night in the autumn of 1347, under a sky heavy with storm clouds, that young Marjorie, a tanner's daughter from a nearby hamlet, ventured into Whittlewood. She was no stranger to the forest's perils. Her father had taught her to tread lightly, to know the paths where the gamekeepers rarely roamed. Hunger had driven her here, her family's larder bare after a bitter harvest. A single hare, she thought, could mean survival. With a sling tucked into her belt and her heart pounding, she crept through the undergrowth, the forest's silence pressing against her like a living thing. But as she knelt by a clearing, her fingers brushing the dew-soaked grass, a sound froze her blood, the distant thunder of hooves. Not the steady gait of a gamekeeper's horse, but something wilder, relentless, as if the earth itself were tearing open. Hounds bayed, their howls sharp and unearthly, echoing through the trees. Marjorie's breath caught as she pressed herself against an oak, her eyes straining into the gloom. Then she saw it, a rider, cloaked in shadow, charging down a moonlit avenue. His horse was a beast of nightmare, its eyes glowing like embers, and behind it ran a pack of hounds, their forms flickering as if woven from mist. Worst of all, where the rider's head should have been was nothing but a void, a darkness that seemed to drink the light. Marjorie stifled a scream, her mind racing with the tales she'd heard by the village fire. The headless horseman of Whittlewood, some called him a spirit of vengeance, or perhaps the Goblin King himself, hunting souls who dared defile the king's forest. She fled, her feet pounding the earth, branches clawing at her cloak. The hoofbeats grew louder, the hounds' cries closer, until she stumbled into her village, collapsing by the churchyard, gasping and trembling. The sounds faded, but the terror lingered, etched into her bones. She never spoke of what she'd seen, but the village whispered of her pale face and haunted eyes, and the story of the headless horseman grew darker. Yet the horseman was not Whittlewood's only ghost. Another tale, older and sadder, wound through the forest's heart, carried on the lips of midwives and shepherds. It began with Lady Aveline, the daughter of Lord Ranulph, a noble ranger tasked with guarding the king's forest. Aveline was a vision of grace, her hair like spun gold, her laughter a melody that could tame the wildest stag. Her beauty was renowned, drawing suitors from across the shire, but none pursued her with such fervor as Sir Godwin, a knight of fierce pride and fiercer ambition. Godwin was a man of striking presence, his armor gleaming, his voice rich with promises of love and glory. He wooed Aveline with gifts of silver and verses sung beneath her window, dreaming of her as his bride. But Aveline, wise beyond her years, saw the shadow behind his charm, a possessiveness that bordered on obsession. She loved the forest, its freedom, its secrets, and could not bear the thought of being caged by a man who saw her as a prize. Politely at first, then firmly, she rejected his proposals, her heart unmoved by his pleas. Godwin's love curdled into madness. Unable to bear the sting of her refusal, he retreated to the heart of Whittlewood, where the oldest oaks stood like sentinels. There, in a glade lit by a sickle moon, he drew his sword, its blade catching the faint light. "If I cannot have her," he whispered, his voice breaking, "then let her know no peace." With a cry that echoed through the forest, he plunged the blade into his heart, his blood soaking the earth. As he fell, he gasped a curse, his words twisting like smoke. That she, whom I so long pursued in vain, should suffer at my hands a lingering pain, renewed to life that she may daily die. I daily doomed to follow, she to fly. No more a lover, but a mortal foe. The forest seemed to shudder, the wind carrying his words into the void. Days later, Aveline fell ill, her strength fading like a candle in a storm. No healer could name her affliction. No prayer could save her. She died in her father's arms, her final breath a sigh of sorrow. The village mourned, but whispers soon turned to dread. Had Godwin's curse taken her, or was it merely the cruel chance of a medieval world where fever claimed the young and strong? Not long after, the forest began to whisper back. Travelers spoke of a ghostly figure, a young woman in a flowing gown, her golden hair streaming as she ran through Whittlewood's avenues. Behind her thundered a knight on horseback, his armor glinting, his face twisted with rage. Night after night, the chase unfolded, Aveline's spirit fleeing, Godwin's pursuing, their fates bound by his dying curse. Some swore they heard her cries, soft and desperate, or saw her pause by a stream, only to vanish as the night drew near. Centuries passed, and Whittlewood's secrets endured. The royal forest dwindled, its laws faded, and Silverstone's fields became a place of speed and steel. Yet the ghosts remained, their stories woven into the land. On quiet nights, when the circuit lies still, some claim to hear the headless horseman's hooves, or glimpse Aveline's fleeting form, her eyes pleading for release. The forest, though smaller now, holds its memories tightly, its shadows alive with the echoes of vengeance and sorrow. In a village pub, an old man tells the tale to wide-eyed listeners, his voice low. "Mind the woods," he warns, "for Whittlewood keeps its own. Cross its heart, and you'll run forever." Outside, the wind stirs the oaks, and for a moment, the night feels alive, watching, waiting for the next soul to wander too far into its embrace. Many thanks for treading this tale's dark path. If its chill gripped you, like, follow, subscribe, and comment below.